we got to divide the media right now in the independent media and the mainstream media right now. And what mainstream media is doing is taking the discourse of the government. And the discourse of the government basically is that President Correa or former President Correa and President Maduro from Venezuela are putting these protesters together and is diminishing the response of the indigenous people and the students and the workers that are the people who actually are in the streets. So in one side we got that discourse and the media is reproducing that discourse, and the other side we got the independent media, and independent media is reporting the aggressions of both the police and the army to the protesters right now, but the armed forces are not discriminating between these two groups. So the only reports of police brutality that we can see in the mainstream media is basically the brutality against journalists and not against the people. And besides that, what the mainstream media is reporting is basically the riots that actually are happening right now in some parts of the country, and are reporting the discourse of President Correa and his allies, and tweets from President Maduro saying that they are supporting the march. But actually what happened is that the indigenous people movement had been in resistance of President Correa presidency, and probably President Correa presidency was the most hard repression government that we have seen in the last years against indigenous peoples. Human rights organizations defend over 200 indigenous leaders that were prosecuted by President Correa government. And so right now that President Correa and his allies are trying to say that they are supporting the people, are supporting the indigenous movement, is a lie. And what is happening right now in Quito is that we have protests, we have social movements that are tired of being the ones to be impacted or to be asked to sacrifice in these moments of where we need to take new economic measures. So this discourse is the one that we can hear on the mainstream media.
And Professor, just quickly, if you could comment, you mentioned Venezuela and President Maduro. What's been the impact of the continuing crisis in Venezuela and the flight of so many Venezuelans out of the country to the situation right there in Ecuador?
Well, we are receiving thousands of people from Venezuela that are fleeing from a humanitarian crisis that is happening in Venezuela, and the impact to the society. The economical crisis is the crisis that we can wait of one of these kind of situations, but we had a lot of support for the international community and UN agencies. However, we got an increasing discourse from the government, a xenophobic discourse. President Moreno have put in force some measures to ban the migration from Venezuelan people. Some of them, most of them, are refugees under international law. However, they got to apply to a humanitarian visa from Colombia, basically before enter to Ecuador, and all this discourse of xenophobia, or all this discourse about the security being impacted by Venezuelans is deeply impacting the Venezuelan population living in Ecuador. And one of the things that is taking advance President Moreno is about what people feel about the Venezuelan migration in Ecuador. So he's blaming Venezuelans and he's blaming President Maduro of some of the violence that have been happening in the streets, but he doesn't have proofs of that. And probably right now the protests are happening all over the country, so probably some people from Venezuela are participating in those, but he doesn't have proof of that. And as human rights organizations that are with the people in the streets, in the jails, checking what is going on, we don't have evidence that Venezuelans are participating in the protests or they are producing the violence. So this discourse of Maduro sending Venezuelans to destabilize the government of Moreno is a lie.